So the sprinkler system arrangement and component can be varied to meet the specific requirement of the building and content to be protected, right, based on the density, durations, hazard classification, and so on. Right? The density and area of operation for the sprinkler system, based on this, designer can choose the pipe size, the thickness of the pipe, types of the sprinkler, and so. So now let's move on directly all the way to the various requirement for the sprinkler system while you are reviewing the fire plan. So the working drawing for the sprinkler system shall be submitted for review and shall include the following details: name of the owners, structural location, street address, point of compass, which is like the arrow which is showing the direction, right, north, south, east, and west. The height, the full height cross-sectional view, a schematic diagram, including the structural member and all which causing some obstruction. If there is any partitions, we have to locate this one in drawings. Location of firewall, occupancy classification as for chapter 5 of NFPA 13, which is classification for occupancies for sprinkler system. So while looking for the hazard classification into your plan, we have to look for the following points. We have to ask the following question, right? The first one, uh, we have to make sure that the designer or the contractor who is submitting the plan, they have chosen the exact hazard classification, right? Right, because most of the time, they do some mistakes based on the building construction types and the selection of the correct occupancy classification. Maybe they need ordinary hazard one and they have chosen based on that light hazard one. Or maybe group 1 plastics, they are protected with they are protected with class 4 commodities. So all those we have to make sure. The one we discuss into NFPA 13 while discussing fire protection too. So the first one we have to look, does the hazard classification correspond to the initial fuel load? What is the load, and based on that they have selected the fire hazard. The second one, the design density is applicable for that hazard, the one from the curve we saw, right? And the sprinkler zones less than the maximum size permitted. Do you guys remember what is the maximum size permitted for a one sprinkler system? Anyone remember that? Okay, it's around 52,000 square feet for the light hazard, all the way to 40,000 square feet for the extra hazard and high pile storage. Then for the location of concealed spaces, attics and bathrooms, right? A small enclosure, no need for the sprinklers. What is the maximum area for that? And what is the size and arrangement of city water main in the street? This is one of the sectional view for one plan, right? This is a generator room. They have given the height of the rooms and all those requirements. The main piping going on, the upright sprinkler system, the maximum distance between the. So this is how the sectional control view should look like. Here we have a ratio 1:50 ratio. The scale ratio is to 50, right? And this is something related to the area of the buildings into your drawings. So the sectional control should give the exact height requirement. What is the maximum storage height, expected locations, and so on. And this one we have flow test data, right, from the city water supply. This is typically hidden flow test report from National Fire Protection Association in NFPA 24. You can find that same graph in NFPA 24. So while you are doing the flow test, we have to fill the following information: the location, date, timing test made by who was a representative of the area, witness, who is witnessing that one, and the size of the pitot tubes, size of the nozzle, pitot reading, discharge coefficient, and GPM. And after that, what is the static pressure, what is the residual pressure, right? And if any remark, we have to keep it into this one. Yeah, Muhammad Jabbar, you are about to speak something?
No, it's okay.
So this is a simple report of hydrogen flow test. We have to use the same form for doing the flow test for our project. And if you have this report, keep in mind this is not older than 1 year, because if it is older than 1 year, it is not valid for review. We have to go for additional hydrogen flow test for your project. Then look for the sources of the water supply, if it's a fire pumps or a gravity tanks, right? What is the size and location of fire hydrant, the static and residual pressures. Then look for the scene numbers, sprinkler identification numbers, right? Uh, which shows about the make, type, model, K factor, temperature ratings, and the orientation. All those information we can find from there. Look for the temperature ratings and location of high temperature sprinklers, right? And then as for NFPA 13 8.5.3, what is the maximum area of protection by one sprinkler? And in any case, the maximum area of protection shall not be more than 37 square meter or 4,000 square feet for extended coverage sprinkler. And look for the what is the number of sprinkler on each pipe riser for flow, right? Look, so all those information we have to look into our plan, right? Not all, but as a minimum requirement while you are reviewing your plan, we have to make sure. Regarding the capacity of the dry pipe system in gallons, right? What is the capacity of the dry pipe system, if anyone remember so far? The maximum capacity of the dry pipe system?
That will be 750.
Yeah,
GPM.
yeah, it's 750 GPM exactly. Then look for the pipe types, the material of construction, the thickness, schedule of that one as for 6.3 of NFPA 13, right? Look for the location of and sizes of the riser nipples. Then look for the fittings, the types of the fittings and all requirements, the hangers location, the listing of the hangers, or the approval of those hangers as for NFPA chapter 9 of NFPA 13, right? Then look for the location of the control valves, check valve, drain pipings, and the test connections, right? Those information from 26 to 28 we can get from the data sheet of the manufacturer, the make, type, model, and the size of the pipe valve. This hydraulic summary sheet, right? This information normally should required on to be based nearby the system risers, right? Which include the locations, number of sprinkler, basis of design, density area of discharge, and the requirement of the flow and pressure when it was installed. It should be always there on it should be always there on the risers to help the fire department team. In case of the fire department, it will help a lot to the fire department team to use this information for fighting the fire. Then we have the hydraulic calculation information sheet, right? While you are preliminary hydraulic calculation report, right? We call it hydraulic calculation sheet. This information should be always pasted. It should be always on the drawing, normally on the general plan or general layout drawing of the sprinkler system. There should be some table which gives us the complete information regarding the plan of those buildings. If you can see in the table, right, the first one talks about the types of the system, which is the automatic wet sprinkler system, and ceiling sprinkler design basis. What is the design basis for this one? So it is NFPA 13 table 13.2.1. What is the storage commodity classification? Class 2, predominant, right? Hazard classification. It is ordinary hazard group 2 occupancies. So design area should be 1500 square feet. The density is around 0.2 GPM per square feet. Right? And based on the theoretical sprinkler demand is 300 GPM. The demand for the theoretical we have 300 GPM, right? Which is calculated based on the area. The maximum protection area per sprinkler is 130 square feet from NFPA tables, right? Maximum spacing between sprinkler is allowed 4.6 meter as per NFPA. The K factor in the ceiling. This is for one. This is from one of the project, right? So those projects require the ceiling sprinklers and also they require the rack sprinklers, right? So then we have the ceiling sprinkler K factor 5.6, right? The types of the sprinkler is a standard response upright sprinkler, right? We discussed that in the warehouses. We normally use the standard response sprinklers, right? It should be upright. The temperature in the AC area, air conditioned area is 68 degrees Celsius, and the temperature in non-AC area, which is mechanical room and all, is 79 degrees Celsius, right? So all those things we have to consider into this graph. I will recommend you guys to read this one. There is lots of information in that, and if you have some concern from this table, you can ask me tomorrow. Page number 59 of your manual, it is there. Then we have hydraulic calculation checklist. While doing the hydraulic calculation, these are some of the basic checks, right? The first one is the hydraulic calculation and fire flow test result within 6 months included, right? Is hydraulic nodal information shows on plans? If you guys, what is the meaning of this one? I want you guys to give more eyes on this one. The point number second, the nodal information on the plan. Can anyone explain it to me?
So just the numbering of all nodes on the isometric or whatever drawing.
Yeah. To make sure that the designer, we did the hydraulic calculation in the Elite software last week, right? Suppose this is our warehouse, and this is the area, hydraulic demand area, right? So we have to do calculation for this area. So all those piping within this area should have some node, so that the plan reviewer will go to the hydraulic calculation report and they will check at node 1 what is the pressure and velocity in the flow, at node 2 what is the dose, and so on. It will help the plan reviewer to get the exact location into the hydraulic most demanding area, while he was doing the report. So those nodal information, most of the project we can see the designer or the contractor is not including, but it should be included, because it makes easy for those person to identify the locations.
So what should be submitted is the detail each node information or only the summary of the overall system?
When you perform the hydraulic calculation and when you print the report will be around 20 to 30 pages. So they will give the summary of the complete node and all. But in the plan, in the drawing, we don't have to do anything. We just have to put that what is the node number. That's it.
Mhm.
Like this is our sprinkler system, right? This is our suppose T arrangement. This is sprinkler 1, this is second, and this is third and fourth. So they will start noting from this one all the way to the riser, right? So no need to give the noding of the non-hydraulically demanding area. If this is our demanding area, we need noding for this area also only. We don't need for this sprinkler, this branch. We don't need for any other branch. But all the way from the main piping, we have to come to the loop, right?
So
The
only
hydraulic
the one
demanding.
that we base our system calculation on.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And even you don't have to you don't have to consider the complete you don't have to consider the complete sprinkler layout into your hydraulic calculation. We have to just assume the hydraulic design area and the piping coming all the way from hydraulic design area directly to the underground network. You don't have to look for any other sprinkler areas. And then we look, is the calculated zone design area the most hydraulically demanding, right? We have to look for that information, right? Normally in the multiple hazard, we have multiple sprinklers and multiple hazards in that area. It might be the most hydraulic area is not the most demanding one. We discussed this one, right, in the fire protection design. So those things we have to keep in the mind. And then look for the C factor of the sprinklers. Normally, when they do the hydraulic calculation, we discussed they have to put the C factors. So if the C factor is for the steel, let's say 120, and they have put it 150, which is for the plastic pipe, that is not acceptable. So we have to make sure they are adding that one. And then look for the curve, supply curve, which is from if it is from the pump, then it should be the pump performance curve. Or if it is from the city water supply line, in any case, our demand should always fall below the curve. Should always fall below the curve. And the last one, do the drawing appear to match the hydraulic calculation, right? So all those are some of the basics requirement while you are reviewing the plan for hydraulic calculations. This is one of the graph sheet, right? The one you can see in the green, we have the y-axis in the pressure in the psi, 200 psi they have given, and the flow they have given around 5000 GPM in the x-axis, right? So the green one is the supply we have from underground firewater networks, and this one all the way up to this point is our demand point. So this is demand point by, let's say, by a deluge system. This graph I from one of the project which was for the deluge system. So this is our demand for the deluge system around 2500 GPM, and then we have the total demand, this one. So this, the one we can see in the red dotted line, it is manual allowances for monitor or hydrants. So the fixed fire protection system plus manual fire protection system, combining those two, we have to meet this requirement. One thing is there, why this demand is almost flat? What is the reason behind that? Just wait a moment, I'll be back in 1 minute. Just wait a moment. So we have to add the fixed fire protection system demand plus the manual fire protection demand, right? Which is required by the various codes or the local jurisdiction. Like for the SABIC, what I have seen from the for the SCIS, they have given around 7,000, I think 7,800 LPM for the fixed fire design, which will be coming from 3 hydrant to fight the fire. So these are some of the additional system parameters would include such item in the items as the following, right? The proper density and area of operations, we have to look for that one. The K factor, hydraulic reference point, the one we said, elevation losses, number of sprinkler from its flow is calculated, type and thickness of piping, hose stream allowances, quantity of waters, elevation of the sprinkler, the junction point, minimum rate of water applications, the location of design area. This should be automatically calculated from the hydraulic calculation software. And then we have our design density curve, right? So we have to match the design density, the area requirement based on this one, right? If it is for the light hazard, we need minimum 0.10 for 1500 square feet, and so on for all others. Point number 11 talks about unprotected wall opening. If you are talking about the room design method, right? Remember, we studied the room design method in the previous fire protection design course. That room design method required fire protection, the passive fire protection system, right? The fire barriers, which will not allow heat to go from one area to another areas. So for that cases, we need to be protect the wall openings and all with some fire-rated barriers. If there is a pressure relief valve, what should be the setting of that? We know PRV we need for the standpipe system, especially if the pressure goes higher. This one we have to take from the data sheet, right? The backflow devices, if it is available, we have to look from this one. About the antifreeze solution, if it is in the freezing locations, right? Types of main control valve, zone, inspection test, or other condition of the valve, right? So we have to look all those information. But bottom line is that not all of those lists, the one we given from 1 to 70, are applicable in every case, right? For example, PRV and antifreeze solution. We don't need PRV for normal case. If we have pressure higher than 175 psi or maybe more than 200 psi, we need PRV, right? Or if we have in the cold location, we need antifreeze solutions. So we have to be specific regarding the project to where we are installing this kind of the installation. Okay, so moving on to the next one, we have some plan for now. We are moving on to the residential sprinkler, right? Residential sprinkler is totally different than the one we saw in we saw that one. It is as for NFPA 13A or 13B, right? We have plan for the residential sprinklers, right? It's protected all the buildings inside that one. This is a first floor plan, and it is installed as for NFPA 13D. There are two NFPA standards which exist for the installation of residential sprinkler, right? Which is NFPA 13D for 1 and 2 family dwelling units, and we have NFPA 13R for residential occupancies, right? So residential sprinkler system are totally different from NFPA 13, right? In several importances. For example, let's say in the residential buildings, we need a sprinkler system which is totally designed for the residential purpose, right? And those should be installed only in those occupancies. And we don't need water supply as much for the greater demand as for NFPA 13, right? The number of sprinklers in NFPA 13D is only 2. Let's say we don't need complete water demand as we saw in NFPA 13R. For a 13D system, the water supply need to supply only 2 sprinklers. So NFPA 13D is required to calculate for only 2 sprinklers demand only, right? So not talking about the one areas or one buildings. And 13R required water supply for 4 sprinklers. This is totally different than our NFPA 13, where we need at least minimum 10 to 14 sprinklers based on the hydraulic demand areas. And for the residential areas, we don't need a sprinkler in area where we have bathrooms or a small closure less than 55 square feet. These are some of the requirement of 13D and 13R. So the 13D, we have NFPA 13, right? The one we saw in most of the cases, which is for the life safety and property protection. 13R and 13D is only talking about the life safety, right? When there is a fire, you will be awake and you will just leave the building, or the sprinkler system fight the fire. This is the second floor plan. So we need only 2 to 4 sprinklers based on which NFPA they have followed. Now moving on to the next one, we have standpipe system. We know well that we have types of the classification for the standpipe system. We have class 1, class 2, and class 3. Right. So those standpipe systems shall be installed as per NFPA 14, right? And class 1 is having 2.5-inch connections. Class 2 is having 1.5-inch connection, and class 3 is the combination of 1.5-inch and 2.5-inch. Class 1 is mainly used by the fire department team. No one can use that other than the fire department teams. Class 2 system, they can be used by some of the trained person, like inside the building, or inside the occupancies, or inside the healthcare occupancies. There is some fire watch team who is having knowledge to use this one. So they can use this kind of equipment. And the class 3 is the combination of these two, right? So the basic flow requirement we discussed, in the beginning, it is the same as that, right? So at the must remote location, we need hydraulic must remote hose connection for 2, right? So we need two number of 2.5-inch connection at the must remote locations, and we have to calculate that one. So our hydraulically must demanding area should be for 500 GPM. Keeping in mind, for 2.5-inch at 500 GPM, the minimum pressure required, residual pressure, should be 100 psi. Less than 100 psi is not allowed, but it is acceptable in some case if it is approved by ASJ, or it is having jurisdiction. If it is applying, we can use that one. And in the same building, we can go up to a maximum of around 1250 GPM. So if we need any additional riser, so suppose this is our additional riser, we need 250 for this one. Then there is one additional riser, we need 250 for this one. So now we cross already 1000 GPM. We can keep one additional riser of around 250 GPM. So we are now at 1250 GPM. So the bottom line is that in any building, in one big building or big commercial complexes, we don't need more than 1250 GPM flow, right? We just want to make sure that if there is a fire, these fires are more than enough. These 4 risers are more than enough to fight the fire from all those areas. So if your building is not protected with the sprinkler system, we need 1250 GPM. But if we have the sprinkler system, right, we have to go only maximum up to 1000 GPM. So it is based on the types of the system, if it is with a sprinkler system or if it is without sprinkler system. And then look for the various requirement for the pressures, right? We said that if it is a high-rise building, we need a PRB because there is a high pressure. So all those requirements for the standpipe system plan, we have to follow NFPA 14 and other requirement of the IBC or IFC or local code jurisdictions. So moving on to the next one now, which is for fire department connection, right? So the fire department connections shall meet the requirement of Section 91 International Fire Code, right? So IFC 912, which have given regarding the requirement of the fire department connection, about the location of the fire department connection, and about the position of the fire department connection, right? So while locating the fire department connection, or if you are reviewing some plan, make sure that the the location of the fire department connection is easily accessible, right? And it is easily accessible to the fire service pumpers, and it is located near an adequate water supply, right? We have figures, we have two figures, figure A and B, which talks about the water supply requirement. You can see that one, figure A, and we have figure A. So figure B, right? So the one in the right talk about this is the combined sprinkler and standby fire department connection. So it is the combined system of sprinkler system and standby system fire department connection. In the left one we have separate sprinklers, right? The top one is for the sprinkler system, and for the bottom one we have for the fire department connection. Now for the position, right? The height of the fire department connection are mountain out fire FDC is important, right? So for the firefighters to easily connect the hose, so we have to make sure the height is within the accessible limit of those fire department teams. Again, for this one we have to go to 912 of IFC or NFPA 14. If you can see here, we have the height requirement of the fire department connection, right? In figure a fire hydrant is in close proximity to an FDC, right? So we have, it is very close to the FDC. So this allows the pumper to use its large diameter intake hose to connect to the hydrant and a pre-connected fire line to be set to the FDC to fighting the fire. In the B, right, is the freestanding FDC, freestanding FDC in a parking lot near a fire hydrant. So if we have a freestanding FDC, this one we can see is a freestanding fire department connection. Just have to connect there and connect to this one to fight the fire, right? This is a freestanding FDC. Sometimes you can see this FDC also in our places also. They have just put inside the shopping mall or commercial complexes. And the last one, figure C at the bottom, we have a firefighter is connecting a FDC to an inlet. So we have to make sure regarding the location and position of the fire department connections. And then we have the and signage, right? It is very important so that one can see easily where is the exact location of those fire department connections. The one we can see here, it is a FDC sign with NFPA 170. We discussed, right? NFPA 170. NFPA 170 is the one who is giving symbol for various fire protection equipment. And here we have the standpipe system, right? Sprinkler located on 7th and 53rd floor. Now the meaning of this one, the one you can see in the middle, if we have a big multi-story large commercial complex with different risers and different fire department connection for different standpipe system. At the standpipe system, we have to give the information about exact which area inside the building supplied by this fire department connection, right? If you can see, they are saying the standpipe and sprinklers museum tower only, right? So this is for a museum tower only, and within those tower, this is located. The one is located at the 7th floor, and the second one is located at the 57th floor, right? So this is the idea about the signage, so that the fire department team can easily access those areas in the emergencies without losing a single seconds. Now here we have some of the questions which you have to ask yourself while you are doing some kind of the fire plan review, right? The first one, how many FDC should be provided, right? if there is a multiple FDC, should be interconnected. What is the type of the connection and the thread types, right? If the type of the connection and the thread types matching the fire service host, right? Most of the time we have to follow the requirement. We have to get those information from the local fire department team. If our fire department connection meeting our system demand, right? Based on the demands, the caps and the plugs, cap plugs are there into the fire department connection, and it is closed in the lock position, right? What should be the location of the fire department connection for the quick access by the fire service? And what is the how close FDC to be fire hydrant or water supply, right? So all those information we have to ask ourselves while designing that one. Further on, they are talking about if our fire department connection is located away from any wall opening or hazardous materials, right? So that the fire department team can go nearby and fight the fire. What should be the height of the fire department connection from this floor level, right? From the ground level. And those fire department connections shall not be damaged by the vehicle, so which we should be keeping in mind, right? There should be exact sign for the FDCs, types of the FDC, and all those information. So these are some of the basics, question you should ask yourself while reviewing some plan for the fire department connection. Now we have some of the plan review checklists for the standpipe system, right? What should be some basic checklist? They ask how much of the drawing they have provided, right? The equipment they have used, the listed one, right? Listed by UL or FM Globals, right? And they have provided the material safety data sheet. And for the minimum information, right? What is the classification of the standpipe system? What is the type of a standpipe? Dry, wet, manual, automatic, semi-manual, or semi-manual, right? Regarding the scale, is there is a scale on the drawing, right? A common scale is used, and the plan information shall be clear and legible, right? So the information provided on the drawing should be clear and legible, so it can be easily watched by naked eye without any problem. The plot plan should be there, right? The plot plan showing supply piping and pipe size from the water source to the building. Compass point, right? Equipment symbol legend and the compass point, which is normally at the right side of the drawing, providing. And point number 7 talks about correct standpipe system, right? Correct standpipe class is provided for occupancies, and as for IFC 905, IFC 905 is given requirement of standpipe system. Building dimension, height, location of fire department connection, these are some of the requirement. Then moving on to the pipe, right? In the pipe we have what is the pipe wall thickness, material specifications of the steel pipe, whether you are going to use the welding or is the group fittings, or it might, all those requirements we have to look for NFPAs, right? And all the support for those piping for standpipe system should be as for NFPA 13, chapter 9. Because NFPA 13 talks about everything related to the above ground pipings also. So despite of other code requirement, we have to look for NFPA 13 only. Then look for the valve, right? The valve in the standpipe system. And now we have for the fire department connection. Look for the swivel fittings, swivel fitting for the fire department connection as per 4.8.2 of NFPA. The signage for the fire department connection, right? If a fire department connection also supplied a sprinkler system, there should be a sign for pressure and demand at that locations. Point number 36 talk about which portion of the building is supplied by this riser, right? Hello.
Yes, Mr. Ravi.
Yeah. So for the fire department connection, I was just discussing regarding the location of the fire department connection and all the signage requirements. So these are some of the requirements for the fire department connection. You can see those information into our in our the manual. There is lots of requirement. It will help you a lot while going for reviewing the fire department connection. So now we are moving on to the next one. We have the foam system. What is typing is something?
I think he's not hearing us. He's just asking if we can't hear
Okay.
you.
So for the fire, we are moving on to the next one, which is the foam system. So normally, foam system are based on three applications. We have the low, medium, and high extension foam. We discuss into the foam system in the fire protection design and fire protection too, right? So look for those applications. And during the plan review process, the designer must evaluate the hazard and apply the appropriate type of the system to the protected hazard areas, right? The firefighting foam should be types of the foam must be applied to anticipated fire. So what is the types of the fire based on that requirement of the flow? When we were comparing the foam suppression system to firefighting operations, aqueous film forming foams would be used by responding apparatus on a fire involving flammable liquids. The code enforcement staff must ensure the foam system is appropriate for the hazard that may be protected, right? So this should be include a close coordination with project engineers, the installing contractor, and the occupant of the space, right? So all those things, all those should sit together and freeze out this requirement. And evaluation of target hazard must be conducted, and the application of foam must be approved. Right, the foam application should be approved for those hazard. Normally, the sprinkler system engineer will provide a specification for system piping, right, including piping layout, equipment, and the foam requirement. And those submittal must include the basis for design and information on the target, on the hazard, right. While reviewing or inspecting the plan for foam system, technical staff can be the manufacturing staff from the manufacturer can be a great asset to fire prevention staff during a plan review and acceptance testing. So we should consider some information from the manufacturer and the technical staffs. It will be good for the fire prevention staff to come to a solution. So the system components, look for the system components shall be as for NFPA 11 chapter 4 for low, medium and high extension foam. And low expansion system shall be designed as per chapter 5 of NFPA 11. Remember we discussed regarding low expansion system for storage tanks and walls, for the storage tanks, the dike protection and all those areas. Medium and high expansion foam shall be as for NFPA 6 of NFPA 11. While for the sprinkler system, right, foam water sprinkler system is totally different than NFPA 11. So it shall be designed as for NFPA 16 of chapter 7. The approval of plans, it shall be submitted to authorities having jurisdiction for approval before installation or modification, right, as per 8.1 NFPA 11. The specification should be shall be developed and shall include the requirement of 8.2.1. The plans, regarding the plans, we have some information in 8.3.1, 8.3.2 and 3.3. We have to look for those sections for doing reviewing the plans, right. The preparation of plans shall be entrusted only to fully experienced and responsible person. So the one who is making the plan should have experience working with the foam system, right. The plan shall be drawn to an indicated scale. The one I said, the scale should be there on the drawing to make sure the various requirements. For the hydraulic calculation, we have the same principle, the one we discussed in the previous slides, right? The summary sheet, the detailed worksheet, the testing and the acceptance should be as per chapter 8 of NFPA 16 and chapter 11 of NFPA 11. Here we have one of the design data table for foam deluge system, which is foam deluge sprinkler system, and this data table should be provided on the drawings. If you can see, this is a design. This is for a foam deluge system. The water density is as per NFPA 16 is 6.52 liter per minute. As per NFPA 16 7.3.2.1. The K factor they have chosen 43.18, right. The number of nozzle calculated and 3 number of nozzle they have calculated. The types of the nozzle is type B1 of some products, right. The minimum required pressure is 2.1 bar. The flow and pressure available at the source is 7 bar, and flow and pressure required at the source is 3 bar. So this kind of the information in design data should be always put on the plan of those foam system. Then quantity calculation means what should be the quantity of the foam solutions, right. Suppose your total exposed area is 25 square meter and the density requirement is 6.52 liter per minute per square meter, right. So the foam water demand will be to 211.82. From where this 211.82 came? Okay, I think they have converted the square meter to a square feet and they come to this solution. And total foam water demand should be around 1381 lpm, 1381 lpm, right? As for NFVS 16, they need for 10 minutes. So multiplying total foam demand to 10 minutes, we have around 13,810 liters of the foam water is required for 10 minutes for these applications. Now moving on to the foam concentration, we have 3%, just multiply by 3%. So we need foam concentrate of around 110 gallons or 414 liters for this application. Now the last one with fire pumps we have. The last one with the fire pumps we have for water-based fire protection system is for the fire pumps, right? Should be as for NFPA 20. Keep in mind the fire pumps is the heart of the fire protection system, right? Because everything is protected by this one, so we have to give more. We have to make sure that everything is designed as for NFPA 20 and IBC section 913 requirement. The fire pump separation should be at for the table 4 sprinklers and the pump room is not a sprinkler to our fire rated or 50 feet distance. There should be adequate, as per international building code, we need some spacing around the equipment, right? For the installation, testing and maintenance of the fire protection equipment. So those spacing should be clear into the drawing, that we can make sure that there are enough space inside the room to remove the fire protection equipment for the maintenance purpose. There should be door into the fire pump room enough to allow removal of largest piece of equipment. So what they is talking about, inside the fire pump unit for maintenance into some other facilities. So the largest equipment inside the fire plant unit should go outside. This is what the requirement of IBC says about that one. The working clearance around controller shall comply with National Electrical Code NFPA 70 Article 110, right? So for the clearance around the equipment should be as for NFPA 70. The fuel supply and arrangement capacity, we did some calculation into in fire protection design, right? Should be sized as for 1 gallon per horsepower and plus 5% for the expansion and 5% for the sump, right? And there should be separate fuel supply lines for each diesel tanks, diesel engine, and there shall be one fuel tanks per engine. And all those requirements we discussed in the beginning, we have to calculate based on NFPA 20, the size, quantity, and all. Then moving on to the pressure sensing lines, right? These are the requirement of the sensing lines. Look for the size of the sensing lines. The material, the size should be minimum ½ inch, not more than that. The material should be corrosion resistant materials. Remember, carbon steel pipe or even galvanized pipe is not allowed for the pressure sensing lines, because there is a chances that those pressure sensing lines, the galvanized one or carbon, get corroded easily. So you don't have to take risk. Look for the number of check valves, right? We need 2 check valves facing to same side, right? Two check valve in each fire pump sensing lines, and there should be separate sensing lines for all the controller, right? So we cannot take one sensing line for all controllers, the one we discussed into fire protection design. Then look for the pump performance curve, the churn, the rated flow, maximum capacities. We discussed that one, right? Churn is the no flow, rated flow is the 100% flow and capacities. The maximum capacity should be 150% at 65% of the rated pressure, right? The fire pump shall not deliver more than 140% of the rated pressure with no flow, right? The 140% is the top line. We cannot go higher than that one. and there is always a certified pump curve designed for the specific pump. So there is, for every pump there is one certified pump curve. So for those should be read carefully, right? The hydrostatic testing requirement and the flushing requirement for the equipment, right, to remove all the obstruction from the piping, the suction and hydrostatically tested at 200 psi pressure or 50 psi in excess of the maximum pressure to be maintained, whichever is greater, for 2 hours, right? And we have to note down the reading if there is any leakage or any loss of the pressure inside the fire protection system. Then we have the factory acceptance test and verification, right? So those are some of the tests. We have to look for the hydrostatic pressure test, performance test, the functional test, NPSS test, which is net positive suction head, material inspection verification, dynamic balancing of impellers, dimensional check of pulses interface, and the drawing approval. So those, all those things we have to check from the data sheet and from the site commissioning report. Now we have the site acceptance test, right? These are the one we discussed in the beginning, which is the factory acceptance test and verifications. We have to, all those information we have to collect from the manufacturer of the pump, right, for reviewing the pump unit. And then we have the site acceptance test, right? So the site acceptance test should be conducted by a factory trained or qualified person. Always remember that the first site acceptance test should be done by the factory personnel from where we got the fire pump unit, and the qualified person along with that one. So those are the person we need for the site acceptance test are the ASJ, right? The civil defense of the client, the contractor or consultant, the contractor who installed the system, the consultant who approved the drawing, right? And if it is protected by some insurance company, those insurance company persons should also be there. Owner of the plant or their representative should be at the site to witness the test, right? So this is under the site. All those persons should be there to witness what is happening. Now the last one, we have the plan review checklist for the fire pumps, right? Look for the scale, the plan view, cross-sectional view of the pumps, the dimension of the room, equipment symbol and legend, right? The suction piping requirement, discharge piping requirement, drivers information, pump and driver, pump controller, manufacturer, and all those information are there, right? Copy of the factory pump test curve, right? Look for the certified, we call it certified fire pump curve. Look for that one. And then we have the pump GTM ratings, head ratings, RPM also be there provided on the drawings or in the data sheet so that we can have some information. Look for the pressure gauge before the discharge, after the discharge, and before the suction line. And then look for the relief valve, fire pump separation requirement, high rise binding requirement, right? The outdoor fire pump unit should be 50 feet away from building, right, to avoid exposure protections. Emergency lighting for the pump room, ventilation requirement, all those information, you know, all the way to the last, you have to from the design, right? You have to keep a checklist with you and look for all those things one by one, because you know what will happen at some moment you might forget something you forget. So the checklist will give us the idea about this those project and how to carry out the exact plan review process for this. Here we have for the suction pipe diameter, right? Remember we said that 10 pipe diameter into the suction flange, and only OSY type valve is allowed into the suction line, right? We can use butterfly valve, but should be at least 50 feet away from the suction flange. All those requirements we have to keep in mind. The vortex plate inside the pump suction line, the one we discussed. And for the discharge piping, we have some requirement here, right? The gate valve, the listed check valve, the backflow prevention devices. And then we have some requirement checklist. That's it. That's it all about the water-based fire protection system requirement. Thank you for your attendance.